I would not buy another raised bed. Here's why. If you're new to our channel, welcome. I am Tony. I am what you call a chaotic gardener. I have 4 beautiful babies and we are gardening to save our family money. We have been gardening for the past 5 years here in Central Florida, and we are growing in containers. We're growing in raised beds and in the ground. And I wanted to share why we are shifting to container gardening going forward. Now, if you see another raised bed in the garden, don't judge me. But anyway, we are choosing to go with containers because we want to make sure we are still leaving space for our family to our babies to grow and play around in the backyard and give them the opportunity to just run free. We don't want to dig up the entire backyard, but we do love some of the trees that we have planted, and we are not going to change that. If we was to do this all over again, we will definitely choose or prefer to put them in containers. Here's why. Raised beds are great. Yes, they're beautiful. They're very nice to have in your garden, but to fill them can be very expensive, especially if you don't have your own soil and you're going out to buy some soil. So that can cost money over time, and replenishing it and changing out the soil does cost money. There's a lot of benefits to raised beds. A lot of the foods that I'm growing, I do see a lot more production because they have access to the ground. If you look here, we have these beautiful barrels. They're pretty big. They're about, I don't know, 25 gallons. And we have shifted this from our other side of the yard. We had this on the north side and it wasn't doing too well because it didn't get that much sun. They're really heavy to move. So my husband, my muscle, helped me move this to this side of the yard. Doing much better here because it has more sun and I have the opportunity to water it more. The biggest reason we're shifting to containers is they're having the ability to move when we need to. If you're in Central Florida and you have experienced a lot of the hurricanes that we have in the last few years, it is one of the biggest worries we have when it comes to preparing for the hurricane is keeping our plants and our trees safe. And when you have plants in containers, you can just up and move them when you need to, protect them all at the same time, and they're very mobile, right? As far as trees, you got to make sure you stake your trees, or like my husband do, I'll put sandbags. If you haven't seen his video, check that out. I'll put the link below on how to protect your trees and your plants for the hurricane when it comes to the weather. So it gets very, very hot in Central Florida. Like, I didn't know that coming from Miami. It gets hot. This is a different type of heat. And we were finding so many different creative ways to protect our plants. But one of the easiest things that we can do for us, as far as containers, is just move it to a shaded area, right? But what I have done with my raised beds, let me show you guys right now. So I have some of these poles here. These are some PVC pipes that I added just to add some shade when needed. But what I'm creatively doing now, if you see this beautiful palm, it's in a container. And what I'm going to do is just move it to cover some of the plants that need to be shaded. While I'm over here, I'll just show you. This is my recycling bin that I decided to use as a container to grow some fruit. It was when I first started off with this, I had it as compost and I was adding my kitchen scraps in here. What I learned is this bed is a beautiful place to grow anything you want. I throw anything in here. It's my bonus bed. I have carrots growing in here for now. Right there. I have some beautiful carrots growing in here, but I grew some peppers in here. This container is very cheap. It came with the house. And it's easy. You just threw some soil in here and it's been doing great ever since. I have found so many things in here, such as these beautiful peppers. I transitioned to this side of the, I actually put them in raised beds, but they were doing fine in there. I have some peppers right here. I don't even know what pepper this is growing. You see it? I found these in my compost container and I just transitioned it over. So all that to say is it doesn't need to cost a lot of money to start gardening. Whether you're using containers or anything that you have around the house that is safe to grow food, that's what we do. And we have saved so much money in just finding. I have some growing in boxes and some growing in the pot. I don't know. I have them growing everywhere and it doesn't cost that much money. These barrels that I showed earlier were on sale. I don't think they knew they put that on that price, but we got them at such a good price. They were about $20 or probably, I believe $20 or $15 for that size. We had to grab them. Not all raised beds are expensive, but if you are new to it and you got to buy soil, you don't have soil already established in your yard, it can become expensive to fill. Yes, we add wood to it, we add leaves, we fill it up with a lot of things in our raised bed, but it's very costly to fill. What would I recommend to grow if you're new to gardening and you're just a beginning gardener? Parsley, basil, oregano, mint does very well in pots. Leafy greens. So we have, in the one I just showed you, have collard greens growing in there. Broccoli, like we have found that does the best in containers are tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, zucchini. Your space extended if you're doing companion planting, and companion planting is important if you have a small space. We do that a lot here. Some other items we're growing in our containers are onions and carrots, bush beans, because you don't require any you don't need a trellis to help with the bush beans. So there is endless possibilities. Some of our what else? Oh, strawberries we have seen some success in strawberries as well. Just because you're growing in containers doesn't mean you can't grow some fruit trees. We have seen a lot of success with those trees that we're growing in containers versus in the ground. Some of the things that are not doing well for us in the ground is, you can see behind me this. Okay, so we have been growing this beautiful, beautiful leafy tree. That's all it's giving us now is leaf. This is an orange tree and it has not produced for the last 4 years. I know it needs to get established or whatever, but it should have been giving us fruit by now. The ones that we have grown in our containers, let me show you. So this is our citrus trees. And as you can see, we have this lot. I moved one into a larger pot and it is doing very well. So we have some, if you can see, some of our little lemons coming up, or lime, or whatever this is, or lime. You see, look at that. Nice line. These are in the pots, but we also realize that in ground soil you have to fertilize a lot more for citrus versus in pots. You can control the soil, you can control the fertilizing, and it's a small space versus when you're growing citrus in pots, and the soil has to be near perfect for it to produce for you. And if I'm wrong, guys, let me know what other tips you have to get citrus on your trees. It's here in Central Florida, but we're seeing more success with our citrus in pots. Some other trees that do well, or fruit trees that do well in pots, are figs and bananas. Yes, bananas. We have grown, bananas grow anywhere. Like, you will pull these bananas and somehow you can throw them in anything, they will grow. Like, I'm telling you, we have tried to get rid of our bananas in certain areas, and they are resilient. They will grow anywhere. Now, the benefit of putting bananas in pots is for those that are in colder temperatures. You can definitely move them in when the temperature change and it's getting a little cold. So that's the benefit. But just want to make sure that you are still fertilizing and watering as much as possible for bananas and anything in your pots. Here's what I learned with growing in pots. There is a big difference in soil. So if you're new to gardening and you're trying to decide what soil, and you're seeing all of the soil bags when you go into these stores that sells soil, and you're not sure, please, 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 if you get anything from this video, making sure you have the right soil is important. You can definitely start to establish your own soil or at home. You're going to save a lot more money. However, not everybody have the luxury of doing that. So there's a big difference in the type of soil you want to use in your pots. So there's the potting soil or potting mix is a big difference from in-ground soil or raised bed soil. Potting mix or container mix is going to be what you want to use in your bags, and you don't want to get any heavy soil. You want it to be light and fluffy, because if you get the wrong soil, it will be too heavy and suffocate your plants, and that's why your plants that's in containers not doing too well. For those that growing in ground, you get the right soil bags for that, because when you have the difference between the in-ground soil and a potting mix soil. The in-ground soil is made to be mixed with the ground soil that you currently have, so you mix it in, especially if you have sandy soil like we have in Central Florida and you're battling these soils. So that's a great way to modify and fix your soil, right? So if you want to stretch your dollar and you want to create your own soil, you can use 50% potting mix, 25% perlite, and 25% compost. You want to mix that all together, and that way you're saving money and it's going to stretch your dollars. Another tip I like to add, I do this in all of my plants. I try to do it in the beginning, and I'll show you here on how I use this in our containers or in our raised beds as well. So one of the secrets to ensuring that you have great success in containers is fertilizing. And one of the natural fertilizers I like to use is worm casting. I have used worm casting and I have seen a significant difference between the plants that I did not use them on and the plants that I did, or the seasons I used and the seasons I did not. Have thrived when I put worm casting, especially in the strawberries and my pineapples. That's also a great plant to add in your container. Strawberries and pineapples do very well in these bags. So if you're adding it to a new container or a new pot, you want to make sure you add the worm casting at the top of your pots, not at the bottom, because if you add them at the bottom, when you water, it's just going to just go out. When you're adding it to your beds, let's say my existing raised bed or my existing container pot that I'm adding it to today, you want to add a 1/2 inch layer to the top and just mix it in. When you water it, make sure you're not getting it at the plant itself. So I'm just going to add a 1/2 inch across around here, and then I'm gonna just water it. Now it's cloudy today and it's been raining, and it says it's supposed to rain again. It really works for me. So I'm just going to mix this in, making sure I don't really mess with the existing plant, but just putting it in the soil. And baby, when I tell you, you'll see the difference in your plants when you add this beautiful nutrient to your soil, you're going to thank me later. Worm casting is a great add to your containers. So one of the things we are adding is saving us some time this year is we're adding emitters throughout our raised beds and our containers, because it can get containers, you're going to lose a lot more water fast. You're going to lose water faster in containers, so you want to make sure you have some type of system whether that is getting water properly. So let me show you. As you can see here, we have emitters in here. We have added emitters to ensure that days that I can't come out, I don't come out, but you're going to get deeper water versus just hand watering or turning on your sprinklers, because sprinklers just dropping water at the top. These emitters are ensuring that it's getting to the proper places and it's hitting the roots and watering it evenly. So my time is very limited. Just wanted to encourage you, if you're new to gardening and you want to get started, definitely start with container gardening. There's a lot of plants. There's a lot of trees that do very well in containers, as I mentioned before. Keep on planting. You'll get it. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't work out. Just move it into a different place, or just pull out the plant altogether. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your family and friends that's looking to start gardening and don't have a huge backyard to do so. Raised beds versus in ground or in containers, where are you seeing the success? Would love to hear it in the comments, and we'll meet you there soon. Thanks for watching, guys.